You decided to cut somebody. His name's The Rock. From the team. Was God telling you that he was destined for bigger things?
No, he didn't. No, God wasn't talking to me about The Rock. And The Rock at that time was called Dwayne Johnson. Okay, and Dwayne was a young fellow who played football at the University of Miami. And we had signed him to be a defensive tackle. But I don't know if you remember the Calgary days. A lot of the good players we had on the defensive line were Canadians, like Kent Warnock and Harold Hasselbeck and Shreko Zizakovic and Stu Laird. So for an American to come and beat these guys out was very difficult. So Dwayne hung around on the practice roster for the whole year. And one of the things that Dwayne did to supplement his $350 a week that he got from us was that he did a little Stampede wrestling on the side. Okay, so Dwayne, in the following year, we signed him back to come to training camp, and you know, again, Dwayne wasn't good enough to make our team. So, you know, as you go, you know, you let the players do what they got to do, and then there's periods during training camp when you have to cut the players to get down to the roster limits. So the roster limit was coming, say, what's today? Saturday was coming next Thursday. Okay, so, you know, training camp is just about over. I get a phone call from his agent in Miami, and he says, Wally, what are you going to do with Dwayne? I says, well, I hate to tell you this, but on Thursday we're going to cut him. He says, can you cut him today? I says, well, why would you want me to do that? He says, well, his father and uncle are pretty famous wrestlers on the East Coast of the United States, and I think I might have an opportunity for him to be a wrestler. So I says, well, look, I can't remember the agent's name. I says, what I'll do is I'll get Dwayne to come up, and we can get on a call. And I just want to give him a choice too, right? Because I have no problems cutting him, but you know, I don't. So we got on the phone, and the agent explained to Dwayne what was going on, and you know, I cut him, and a couple of years later, all of a sudden, this guy becomes famous, right? And then he becomes real famous, okay? And the thing about Dwayne, God bless him, he will text of me or he'll talk about me, but I've never been able to really text him back. Like, you know, I've seen where he said, you know, he was grateful for me being up front with him, and I taught him a lot of stuff. So, you know, this was years and years, and then about, say, 3-4 months ago, I got a phone call from a player who I played with in college and with Montreal, and then he ended up playing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and he stayed in Saskatchewan, and he says, Wally, I know you know The Rock, can you do me a favor? I says, Phil, I says, I know The Rock, I says, but I don't think I can help you. I said, but tell me what you want me to do. He says, well, can you get a hold of The Rock? He says, my daughter is at the Royal Columbian Hospital, and she's dying of cancer. So she says, if you can get The Rock to send her a note, or, you know, best wishes or whatever, it would really make her happy. I says, Phil, I want to be up front with you. The Rock's never, ever responded to me directly. Like, he's talked about me, he's talked about our relationships. I says, you know, he even refers to me as Uncle Wally. Okay, I says, but you know what? I'll get my secretary, which is Christy, is my daughter, and she'll get a hold of the Rock's people or something. So all of a sudden, Christy says, Dad, I got a text back from Nicole, who's The Rock's whatever, and she said, The Rock's gonna do what you ask him. So he says, can you do me a favor and get some information on Kim, that was the girl, and he'll send you a video. So I get some information, and about 2 days later, I get this 5-minute video from The Rock, okay, saying, hey Kim, I know you know somebody that I know, and he asked me to, to send you a note, and I want to just let you know that you're my hero for being, so tough and fighting cancer and all that stuff. And the sad part is Kim didn't want to talk to nobody, didn't want to hear from nobody. So I said to Christy, Christy, you have to get her to see the video. Okay, so I guess her cousin finally convinced her to see this video. And she saw the video, and the next day she died. But the thing is, Dwayne Johnson was always a good guy at training camp, with the Stampeders. And when he became famous, real famous, he was still the same good guy. Now I'm not sure Dwayne would ever do this again for me, but just the fact that, he would do that, was something that really was, it was emotional. Okay, because of the fact that, here's this guy who's bigger than the world sometimes, and he's willing to take some time to just bring joy to the person who was dying.
Yeah, well said. Great story too.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a disclaimer, so please don't take Wally's advice to heart and then put a bet on this, because I knew this was coming.
Okay.
But who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Okay, so here's who, I have a bet with my neighbor in Arizona, $10 US, and that's for us Canadians, that's a lot of money. And then I have a bet with my grandkids and my daughter and son-in-law in Seattle. I have the 49ers.
Yeah.
Okay? And you know what? When you look at what they've been able to accomplish with Mr. Irrelevant, okay, it tells you something about the quality of their team. Okay, I'm not saying, Philadelphia is going to be a tremendous opponent for them. And maybe Philadelphia's probably got a better team. Okay, because they got a great quarterback who has a great support system, whereas San Francisco has a great team that supports the quarterback. Okay, so now you're going to see who's better. Okay, for me, usually a great quarterback and a great team means a championship. Okay, so I'm wishful tomorrow, but I'm not going to be real disappointed if I lose.
Thank you. So how has faith affected your coaching and the quality of your coaching? How has faith helped you?
Well, I'm going to give you a story and then I'll answer the question. So I played for the Montreal Alouettes for 10 years. And then in 1982, I went to training camp, and then we decided that I was going to retire. And prior to training camp, I had a good friend of mine, Don Lismer, who had started Hockey Ministries. And we had set up a meeting with his wife and my wife. We were going to go to his country place in the Eastern Townships for the day. This was after training camp. So on Monday I got released, and then on Wednesday we had this meeting. Okay, and so Don says to me, Wally, I'm really struggling. I cannot find somebody that can help me to be my camp assistant for all the hockey camps. And then the day before, I had gotten a call from Simon Fraser, wanted to know if I would be a coach. Okay, so now I explained that to Don on Wednesday, so my wife and I decided that we were going to take a day or two and think about it and pray about it and see which direction we should go. And football was my life. Getting into coaching was something I was going to want to do. And so here now is a great opportunity to go to Simon Fraser which at that time was a powerhouse in Canadian college football. And we felt that, God was calling us to help Don. Okay, so we said to Simon Fraser, I'm sorry, at this time, we feel we have other obligations that we're going to take care of. So we did hockey ministries, and it was a great summer of going out and sharing the gospel and helping kids play hockey. And, then in August, just before the summer camps for hockey were going to be ended, I got a call from the Montreal Alouettes, and they said, well, we'd like for you to coach the junior team, and if things go well, then we might have an opportunity for you to join the Alouettes in January. So we did all that, and all of a sudden, football's becoming a bigger part of what we're doing, and we believe that God directed us in His own way, not in our way. It would have been easy to, take the Simon Fraser job. If I'd have taken the Simon Fraser job, probably wouldn't have got on in Montreal, wouldn't have got on with starting my career. So, God's always been present, and, one of the things that, I had a little plaque on my desk, remind me that, God had a plan for me, and it was a good plan. And there was lots of times after losses or, things that are difficult in your life, you maybe forget that God has a plan for you, and, there are going to be tough times. And we've gone through all that. In 2002, it was September, and it was training camp, and I told my wife after training camp, Sam, I think we're going to move after this year. She says, why would you say that? I said, well, the owner and myself, we're not making it. It's not going to happen. And that's when Michael Frederick was the owner of the Stampeders. And when I was going to cut his son, he didn't take kindly to that. And I said, Sam, that's inevitable that we're going to have to move. So after the season, whatever, God opened the door for us to come to BC. And I truly believe that was God's divine plan all along. Because of the fact that we had bought a 5-acre parcel of land to retire in Calgary and all that stuff. But that was our plan. That was not His plan. And God's plan was way, way better now that we look back, and it's 2023, not 2003. So, God's always been a part of my decision. Did I feel good about cutting players? No. But I also prayed about it, and I knew when it was time, it was the right decision that I felt I had to make for the team. Okay, and God gives you that wisdom, and He gives you that confidence, and it doesn't always mean that it's a pleasant thing or it's a good, happy thing, but it's a necessary thing. And so when we had to move on G. Roy Simon, I was okay. When I told Dave Dickinson that we weren't going to sign him because of his health and he didn't agree with me, I was okay with it. Okay, because I believe that, that's what God was leading us to do. And there's been times where I was more patient with the player and I didn't, because God said, no, you need to help him to be a better person, a better man, and sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. But, God's plan was different always than, what I initially thought. And but it always gave me the assurance and the comfort that I was doing the right thing. And, honestly, I didn't bother me whether the media thought it was right or even the fans. Okay, because I wasn't accountable to them. I was accountable to God. And He, when He tells you what He needs or what He wants, you have to be obedient to it.
Yeah, great, thank you. Hopefully you're taking notes.
No, you don't take notes.
I'm just teasing. Not you, I'm teasing everyone here. This is a great question. Obviously, you've experienced successful and won multiple championships. What characteristics were constant amongst those championship teams? And what qualities do you think you need to be a winner or success in life or in marriage or in business?
Well, okay, so I'm going to be, I was in football, I think 46 years. Okay, that's a player, as assistant coach, and as a head coach, and GM, and all that stuff. So how many years do you think I was successful?
5 pickups.
7.
7.
2 as a player. So if you're measured by that, which we are, then I would say I was a failure. Okay? Because, if you're a baseball player and you hit 300, you're a good hitter. I didn't even hit 300. So the thing is, you got to be careful about how you measure yourself, okay, and what you think successful is, okay? And there's, yes, and I'm not going to argue with the fact that when you win, you feel great. When you lose, you feel terrible. Okay, I'll give you an example. So it's the regular season. It's game 18 of the regular season. Okay, you have lost 17 games in a row. Okay, now think about this. You win your 18th game. Okay, you're 15-3. I've been here. You've been 15-3. You win the Western Final. You go to the Grey Cup, and you lose. Who feels better, the team that was 1-17 or the team that just lost in the Grey Cup game? Who feels better? 1-17. Okay, because when that person goes home, he says, you know what? I got something to look forward to. I got something that I can build on. I got hope. The person that lost has what? Has that feeling of failure that sticks with them for months. Why is that? Because what happens at the end is relevant. Okay, so it takes longer for that person to get over the feeling of being a loser, even though he's been successful. So you got to be careful to keep things in perspective. Okay, and this is where your faith has to help you, okay, because you have to have something more than just a win or a loss, determining your happiness, your joy, what's relevant, what's not relevant. Okay, and for me, yes, when I lost, it was tough. I'm going to be honest with you. Even though I was a Christian and I believe that, even losing, God can work in you, but it was tough. At least I knew that, as I said to you before, God had a plan for me, and the plan was good. And I just had to be willing to live that through to see what it's going to be. Okay, and it's, when I look back on my life, if I'd have made a lot of the choices I wanted to, I'm not sure I would be sitting here talking to you guys. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Wally. With your perspective of being a Christian, a follower of Jesus in professional sports, this question was, why do you think there are more Christians in football than other professional sports? Or seen more, especially on TV?
Can I be blunt with you?
Go for it.
Okay, hockey is barbaric. No, and I was a hockey player. When I was growing up in Montreal, if I was good enough, I would have been a hockey player. Okay, but hockey, from the roots of hockey, okay, was a very tough, I'm going to say non-religious game. The people that were involved in hockey had that attitude, that mentality. Okay, it's a mentality. It's a lifestyle, okay? It's a whole makeup. Whereas you look at football, football was more dominant in the States. And you know, the Christian movement was stronger in the States in the athletic world, okay? You know, so when you look at it, when the athlete comes up, or the athlete is from the South, or, you know, where supposedly Christianity is bigger, stronger, there's way more influence to have all that. Okay, so the thing about football, there's way more exposure. There's way more opportunity for young men especially, okay, to be Christian athletes. Okay, so when you go to college, okay, and these kids have come from, you know, communities, families that are believing Christians, they bring their faith with them. It's accepted, it's allowed, okay? It's encouraged, whereas in hockey, it wasn't. Okay, who was one of the first Christian hockey players that you know of?
Paul Henderson.
Paul Henderson. Okay, Paul Henderson. Okay, and I guarantee you he was chastised. I know Paul Henderson. Okay, Mike Gardner. Okay, Doug Jarvis. Ryan Walter, a good friend of mine, yeah. No, these are all people that you're talking about in the 1970s. Okay, 1980s. Okay, you're not talking about, you know, 20, say 50, 60, 70 years ago. So, you know, and when Don Lismer said to us, because he was our chapel leader for the Alouettes, he said, you know, guys, what I'm hockey and Christianity? Why is that? Because there was no part of that. So he quit his job, and he had the first hockey camp in Montreal then it was called Loyola University, now it's called Concordia. And they had 27 kids that were all sponsored by players that were Christians on the Alouettes that attended his Bible study. And if you look at hockey ministries today and you see how God blessed him and see how many people they've reached, okay, and it's been miraculous. Okay, so the reason it's because in Canada, I think Christianity was way more kept a secret. Okay, and today it's not a secret; it's almost outlawed, right?
What's been an obstacle or one of your greatest obstacles you faced as a player or a coach? And how did you overcome it?
Having bad players. No. See, that's not true. And I'm going to tell you why ownership isn't true. In Calgary, we had Larry Rickman, who was a shyster. Okay. No, seriously. And he, we had no money and all that stuff, but we still won because you can separate ownership and the team. You just got to be able to not let it get into the locker room. Okay. And if you have mature, focused professionals, they can focus on their job. Their job was to win games. Football players and hockey players are not paid to play. They're paid to win. Okay? So when they go say, yeah, I played last night, that's not what you get paid to. I could hire you guys to put on a football uniform and you can go out and play. Okay? But you're never going to get paid because you're never going to win. So, athletes get paid to win. Okay? So from that point of view, so ownership, bad, good, or indifferent, should not affect what you do on the ice or on the field. Because you're a pro, you're a professional. Okay? You guys all work, I hope, and if you do, you all have bosses, right? If your boss is a jerk and he's not fair, okay, you still got to do your job, don't you? You can't say, I can't do my job because my boss isn't nice to me. Maybe you can, I don't know. Today it sounds like you can. Sounds like you can, but you know, nobody cares. At the end of the day, you got to be able to separate those kind of things. And the athletes who achieve have this great ability to focus on what they do, and that's play a sport. Okay, the great players are tremendous, not because of their skill set, but because of their focus. Okay, you know, you talk to the, guys like the Wayne Gretzky's and all the Sidney Crosby's. They all have a tremendous ability to focus. Okay, and do it every night. Okay, when you see these athletes at the professional level, their skill set is so high. It's pretty consistent with all of them. Okay, but not all of them can do what a Wayne Gretzky or a Gordie Howe or Sidney Crosby or Eddie Shack. Eddie Shack was a great hockey player. I used to be a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Yeah. So this is what separates the great hockey players, the great golfers, is the ability to focus. Tiger Woods, when he was on top of his game, okay, was because he could focus. He could get all those distractions out of his mind and just do his job. Okay?
Yeah, well said. We're going to shift gears a little bit just with this question, and we have about 15 minutes, friends, so if you have any other questions, feel free. This goes really quick these times. But this is a great question, and I wanted you to answer this, but what is some advice for men about retirement? What would you say for men who are about to be retired or are in retirement? What is some advice you would say?
I've only been retired 4 years. Okay, and you soon find out you have no friends. No. And honestly, that was one of my what do you call it? Findings. Okay, is so for 46 years I got up every morning. Okay, and I went to work. I came home, and lucky if you could get dinner and then maybe have an hour or two yourself, then you went to bed, and then you got up and went to, and then you worked how many days a year? Mostly, if you're lucky, if you got 2 weeks of vacation, right? So for your whole life, you worked. Okay? So now, this is my first thing I learned. Okay, now, I get up in the morning, I have coffee. I have coffee for about 2 hours, maybe something 3 hours. Okay? So now you look around, and who do you see? The wife. Who else do you see? Nobody else. Where are all your friends? Huh? They're at work. Okay? Because most of your friends are at work. Yes, you still have an occasional friend here or a friend there that you might socialize with, but they're probably at work. Okay, so now your wife says to you, can you get out of my hair? Because I don't need you. I have all my friends. Because she doesn't do what? She doesn't work. So here you are, left by yourself. Okay? And, okay, now you say, okay, who can I call? They're all at work. Okay? So one of the things you learn is you better have some other interests besides work. Okay? The other thing I learned about retirement, do not retire today. Plan to retire years in advance. Okay? If it's like us, And a good friend of mine, who's a good Christian man, told me this years ago. He says, Wally, plan your retirement before you retire. Not that, and he says, if you're going to want to live, we have a home in Arizona. We sold our home in South Surrey so that we could have a home in Arizona. Why is that? Because when you retire and you don't want to spend the whole winters where you're at, you can anywhere you want. Okay, if you plan it, first of all, you'll do it. Second of all, when you're retired and you go there, you're not totally lost. Okay, because you've already gotten friends, you've already gotten, where things are. So there's a familiarity to where you're going. So it's like going to another home. Okay, so that's important. Try to plan things, because when that paycheck dries up, you don't feel quite so, wealthy to do things like buy a new home, buy new furniture, buy a new car. Okay, and then obviously for us who are suppliers for our families, we got to plan for a retirement income. Okay, the government doesn't pay you enough. Okay, believe me that. And if you're retired, you know that. You have to be wise with your money and have a retirement plan so that money is not a stressor. We worked hard all our lives, okay, and we shouldn't have to have money be our determining factor on whether we're happy or unhappy, whether we can do something or not do something. Okay, and so think about it, right? Be smart. Okay. The other thing is you got to stay active. Now watch. What do you think activity is? Activity is going for a walk. Activity is reading a book. Activity is finding a hobby. Okay, activity is doing anything that you enjoy, but it occupies your time. Okay, get off the couch, don't turn the TV on. Okay? And so what retirement is what you work all your life for. Okay, and I've been very fortunate, so I'm not going to say everybody's the same. I was paid well, so money's not an issue for me. But okay, that's not the only issue. Okay, the issue is about, you can be active, you can go for walks, you can have projects, you can have hobbies, you can keep physically fit. All things that are important to you. The other thing is, when you're retired, treat retirement like work. Okay, get a schedule. Like I told you, I have coffee, then after coffee I usually go do something physical. After that I go do something maybe mentally. Okay, I enjoy cooking, so my wife stopped cooking, I started. Okay, so those, build a schedule for yourself so that when you get up every day, you know what you're going to do. Okay, and enjoy life. You don't have to, you don't have to go to Europe or Mexico or Hawaii to enjoy life. We live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. Today I went for a walk in White Rock. We live close to the walk. I mean, if God created a place that's more beautiful than White Rock, it must be really nice.
That's true. A couple more questions really quickly is, how did you handle temptation as a player and a coach in the midst of professional sports?
Yeah, well, the best way, honestly, is you got to walk away. Yeah, if you don't walk away, it'll get you. Okay, whether it's anything, whether it's sexual, whether it's ethical, whether it's anything, you got to walk away. Okay, if you start dabbling with it, it'll eat you up. It will. It's just way stronger than you. Okay, and believe me, I wouldn't be the first person that succumb to temptation. And I'll say it this way, there's a lot of people that are way smarter than I am, way stronger than I am, okay? And the Bible says, you know, you must physically walk away. The other thing is, I always felt, don't put yourself in that position, okay? That's a choice, okay? It's a choice. You walk into a situation, you purposely walk into it because you know what's there. Don't walk there. Not always easy. Your friends say, hey, let's go to a nightclub. Okay, you got a choice. Okay? God always gives us a choice. Okay, and last time I saw, He always gave us a way out. But, you know, don't say, you know, God wasn't there for me. Well, you choose, you choice, right? So, you know, for me, I always was very careful about putting yourself in a position that you could be tempted and compromised. Okay? And did I make mistakes? Yes. Okay, but I never made a mistake that was so bad I would regret it. Okay? So, you know, that's just self-discipline, I guess, right?
So a couple of questions we're going to try to tie into this one. So obviously everyone here comes from different backgrounds. Of course there is different principles that we can take from today. How did you continue to live a life of integrity in a secular context? You talked a little bit about temptation, but how can you be a Christian leader who influences a non-Christian secular business or a team or friends? How has that helped you? And how could you encourage us?
Well, you know, I think I was fortunate, as I mentioned to you before, when we went to Bible study with, you know, Don Lismer, because, you know, you learn what's right and what's wrong. Okay, you know, and in today's world, guys, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's right or wrong. Because if you listen to what they're saying, everything is right and everything's wrong. It all depends on what that individual thinks. Okay, but the Bible is very clear about certain things. Okay, and yes, you can say, well, that's true, but this time I'm going to do it this way. Okay, you know, and part of that was, it's like me, you know, when I did contract with players, we used to always, you write everything down. Nothing was under the table. Nothing was, you know, just you and me. Okay, because that's not ethical, and that's going to get you in trouble. Okay, and I always felt, and I used to tell everybody this, if I owed the player something, he gets it. Even though he might not even know he's supposed to get it. You know why? Because I know he's supposed to get it. I know what's right and I know what's wrong. Okay, so therefore, you know, God will convict you. Okay, and if you feel that little conviction, you know you're doing something wrong. Okay, and like you said, if you believe that God is a part of your life and the Spirit lives within you, when you're doing something wrong, you know. Okay, you can correct it. Or you can just say, nah, nobody knows. I always say, God knows. And the other thing I always try to do, which is, I always try to treat somebody like I would want to be treated. Okay? Andy, do you owe me something?
Not yet.
No. But you see, Andy owes me nothing. Okay? I didn't do him a favor by coming today. Okay? So my point is, I don't owe Andy anything, and he doesn't owe me anything. Okay, just because I did this for him, I didn't do it because I wanted to be nice. I felt that this was something God wanted me to do. Okay, so I did it. Okay, so I don't have an obligation to him. But I do have an obligation to be honest with myself and with God, because he knows you. And when he puts things on your heart, even though you might not want to do them, or you might not want to say, well, man, that's going to make my life harder. Okay, when you don't do them, that's when your life gets hard. Because that's when your convictions start and your guilt starts, and we've all done this, we've all done it, okay? And when you make a mistake, it's tough. So, I'm 70, going to be 73 soon. I have a lot of concern for my children's children. Because I don't know what they know, what's right and what's wrong. Okay? And in today's world, sometimes I wonder to myself, if Christ was in the world today, what would he change? Because see, when he came 2,000 years ago, he changed the world. Would he change the world today? I think he would. I think he would. Okay? Yeah, so, it's tough. Okay?
Well, thanks, Wally, for your time. I really appreciate you just being real with us.
Yeah.
Because when we're real with each other and real with God, it seems like life becomes more real, if I could put it that way. We know that God exists, but it's in the context of God becoming real to us personally.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that really jumped out with what you said, Wally, is about friendships, how important friendships are. And you've talked about key people in your life, throughout your life, whether it's a chaplain or whether it's a player or whether it's friends in this season of life. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we've tried to do here, guys. We're trying to create opportunity for you to find friendship and not try to do life alone. And so there's a couple of things that you can do. Feel free to connect with us. But I'm going to give you the final word. Wally, is there anything that you would like to share with us before we close?
No, well, I think, the thing that I've learned over time as men is that, we are the leaders of our families. And it's important to take that leadership on. That doesn't mean that people bow down to you. Because when I was raised, that's how it was. I was born in Italy, my parents were from Italy, and when we had family gatherings, the men and children ate first. The women didn't eat with the men. Okay, that's just how it was. That was their culture, that was their lifestyle. And, okay, so today, it's important for the man to be a man. It's important for your wife to be a woman. Not that you're better than her, you're not. She's your equal in things you have to respect each other for what they are. But at the end of the day, when things are tough, okay, and I've done this, most of the time I'm really good at this, some of the times I'm not, is that we're the ones that have to say, I'm sorry. We're the one that has to say, hey, I'm out of line. Okay, and if you do, you will have a better life, a better relationship, a better family. Okay, and one of the things that my wife and I still do, and we've done this for years and years and years. When my kids were young, we're the only ones that have a Bible study in the morning. I said, we don't have a Bible study, we have a reading. I says, everybody's up at 7:30, okay, before we go to school, we spend 5 minutes just reading God's Word. Is that so hard? Is that so much? Okay, and my wife and I still today, we sit down 5 minutes a day and we do a reading. Okay, He'll put people in your lives that'll bless you way beyond what you ever thought. Okay, so it's a life. Yes, being a Christian is not easy, and your life isn't any easier physically, mentally, emotionally. But you do have a source you can always go to that will be there for you. And that's, to me, we live in a world of turmoil. Seriously. Okay, sometimes I get so disgusted, it's tough. You watch the news, you listen to the news, it's unbelievable, right? Okay, what's the only constant? God loves you, and He's got a plan for you. Amen, right?
Yeah, well said. Great last words. Can we give it up for Wally? Thank you so much. Wally, you mentioned that you have something special that you'd like to give or do, so I have no idea what Wally's doing, but he's doing something with
What I do. As a coach, you have to be prepared. Okay? So, in football, I don't know about other sports, after every game, and you got to win though, okay? You cannot lose. Okay? So after every game that you win, the team presents a game ball to an individual, right? Okay, and doesn't have to be the quarterback, doesn't have to be G. Simon. It could be some guy you don't even know of who was great on special teams, okay, or somebody who had to step in for somebody else and never played a game, and he did his part to help the team win. Okay, so game balls are given to people who have gone beyond the norm. Okay, so I got a game ball here. Okay. So it's nice. It's signed by the players. I can't read half the stuff, but okay. So let me tell you this. So I got a call from Andy, I'm going to say almost 3 years ago. And this has been put off for 3 years, not because of Andy, maybe a little bit because of me, a little bit because of COVID, and I'm going to guarantee you a little bit because the devil didn't want this to happen. Even today, driving here, there's supposed to be an incident on the Portman Bridge. Then there's no incident, so then we're driving, and all of a sudden, the Highway 1 is all backed up. Okay, and my wife says, you might want to give Andy a call, say you might not be there. I said, Ann, the devil's trying, but we're going to be there. Okay, so, and then you got a text, yeah? So the thing is, I think, since I'm the coach, okay, Andy deserves a game ball, okay, because he's done a great job of bringing us together.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, this is very kind. I didn't know you were doing this.
You're not supposed to.
I don't know what to say other than thank you, Wally.
No, you gotta thank the people here, because if they didn't come, we'd be talking to each other.
The last thing I would say is men's ministry is really important. You're important. And if you look at anything that's worthwhile is what Wally said about the family and leadership. In the context of right or wrong, I think men are getting beaten up too a lot in culture, and you just need to know that God's with you, God's for you, that God not only has a plan, but He goes before you. And when you choose to trust Him rather than your own skill, or what's in your wallet, what's not, or what's your education or not, or how fancy your home is not, like when you choose to trust God because He's trustworthy, He takes care of the rest. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to church life, when it comes to your home or your business or your paycheck or your not,